And good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Allen.
I'm Andrea Anderson. With sunshine and the warmth of summer comes a new wave of construction projects.
A major project underway right now in the heart of Harrisburg, and along with it has come some complaints from homeowners. Cordell Wright in studio to explain our 9 o'clock top story tonight. Cordell, good evening.
Good evening, Brian and Andrea. The corner of East Willow and Cliff Avenue is the busiest intersection in Harrisburg, which is why the city decided to begin constructing a roundabout. Roads are being torn up and detours are being put in place. Drivers are being rerouted into residential neighborhoods, which is cause for concern for some homeowners.
We're just pleading with people to slow down.
Harrisburg Mayor Derek Wink lives right in the middle of one of the detour routes.
You can tell the people that are in a hurry to where they're going, and they didn't realize that there was a detour, and now they're in an even bigger hurry. Initial shutdown, I received a ton of complaints on getting cops at certain intersections because people were blowing through stop signs and speeding down residential streets.
Which is why Sergeant Chris Kuntz and other members of the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office have stepped in.
Every one of those complaints has been addressed to some point specifically. We've also had extra deputies in town. We've ran saturation patrols, targeting speed enforcement, particularly in neighborhoods, and then also stop signs as well.
Sergeant Kuntz says since patrol has increased, more drivers are following traffic laws. But there are still some outliers. Over just a 20-minute period, he made 2 stops in a residential neighborhood.
They've seen deputies making traffic stops. They've been very appreciative of that. Personal experience, I haven't seen as high speeds as I initially seen. People are closer to following speed limits on a lot higher percentage basis.
We also brought our own speed radar gun to track how quickly drivers were traveling past Liberty Elementary School. We saw speeds at or around the speed limit, and we also saw some vehicles traveling at more than 30 miles per hour.
When school's out in the evenings particularly, there are tons and tons of kids everywhere, and families out walking, biking, things like that. So just be aware for pedestrians especially, and just follow speed limits. That's all we're asking.
Think about the kids. I mean, think about your own kid walking home from school on the sidewalk. You wouldn't speed by your own kid, so respect other people's kids.
The construction project will take place in 2 parts and isn't expected to wrap up until early fall, which is why it's asked that you leave a little bit earlier if your commute takes you through those areas.